I guess this is the message for the Conservative Party, which is like you have to be prepared more about yourselves. Actually, they unite. I mean, they unite like it's 2 months ago, which was very recent. So sometimes, it's really hard for people to understand. I mean, to remember the name of the party itself. So, I mean, just the physical, just uniting all different factions. It's not everything about the politics. They have to show that what's their cause, what they will do for people, what they will do for the country. But that was not very clear.
I want to build on what Insun was talking about with regard to the opposition party performance, because I think that what is really notable is that the leadership of the Conservative Party was hit so hard with losses by Hwang Kyo-an, Oh Se-hoon, and Na Kyung-won. And so it basically means that the conservatives are in some disarray, and it's really going to require new faces as a way of moving forward.
Now the leaders in Democratic Party, include the lawmakers, strongly believe that the candidates from their party will win again for the 2022 president election. The three main factors are President Moon's high approval rating, and the Democratic Party has many candidates, including the Lee Na-kyun and a former prime minister in Korea, and Lee Jae-myung now is Gyeonggi province governor, and Park Won-soon, mayor of Seoul, and others too. So, however, things can completely change the political environment in 2 years, and this 2 years is not a short period of time to predict, and no one knows what will happen during that time.
I think the ruling party is going to take this as a mandate for all of the elements of the Moon administration's platform, both domestic and foreign, that it has been pursuing. The Moon administration's agenda is going to get a shot in the arm, but in a way, the complicated aspect is that Moon himself only has 2 years left. And so that means he has a very short, relatively, period of time to try to implement an agenda from judicial reform to continuing work on North Korea to economic policy before the next election began.
As the government and governing party promised before the election, which I believe contributed a lot for them to win the huge victory. So the government is working on who is eligible for that direct payment. So they have announced today that the bottom 70% they will supply, but the governing party, they supported the idea of, it should go for all. So I guess still they are discussing who are eligible for that direct payment. They're just, you need to just, rearrange it and then just coordinate the issues. So I guess it will take a little bit more, for people to really get the money in their pocket.
Generally speaking, the lowering of the voter age to 18 is the favor of the Democratic Party, I think. That the number is about 550,000, the 8 years old voter have a right to vote in this election. This is 1.2% of the all voters. And many under 18 was involved in the Park Geun-hye impeachment campaign. Most of them are supporters of the Democratic Party. However, the number of young people has dropped sharply in Korea due to low birth rate. And the number of people that are 60 and older has increased relatively. They prefer conservative opposition parties such as the Future United Party. In terms of demographics alone, the conservative opposition party is in much more favorable position in this election because 60s and older have a much higher turnout than younger generation.
The election results does remove a constraint, a domestic political constraint on Moon as he pursues foreign policy. And it probably is going to strengthen pressure on Moon from his constituents to deliver on some of the core issues that they care about. And North Korea would be one of those issues. And so I can imagine that the Moon administration might feel like it can push harder on trying to find ways to promote economic integration with North Korea. That is an issue that potentially can generate some friction with the United States, as the U.S. is still committed to a sanctions, a maximum pressure policy on North Korea. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And then also, I think that the burden sharing issue obviously is still out there. It's a very complicated issue. On the one hand, President Moon now has sufficient support within the National Assembly, I think, to force a deal through if he were to decide that he wanted to do that. So he's actually, in a way, empowered, but at the same time, he's empowered in a way that carries with it a lot of political risk, because if he gives up too much in the eyes of the Korean people, or exceeds too much to President Trump's demands on burden sharing, then he and his party will own that. The National Election Commission worked to integrate the best practices as espoused by the KCDC, the Korean Center for Disease Control, into the process that Insun described for actually going in to vote. And so in some ways, I think what's really interesting about the Korean election process is that actually is a triumph of bureaucratic management at a moment when it seems like everything is becoming more politicized.
I myself feel the same way. I mean, usually when you go out to vote, I mean, it's totally up to if you are willing to do. But in this case, you have seen some hurdle that you have never experienced. So I felt like, you know, I really need to do, because there's some other difficulties that made me not to vote. So I feel more responsibility to experience my duty or my responsibility and my right to vote.